Today on Commander Replay, for science, we're gonna figure out what happens when you land Stuffy Doll with Guilty Conscience in a multiplayer game. Find out next on Commander Replay. Welcome back, everyone. Got a special deck for you guys today, playing Marith Will of the Wild, and this deck was submitted by user 654BillyGoat. As we got to talking a little while back, I saw that the Enrage mechanic works really well with Marith, and they had actually built a Marith Enrage deck, which is basically exactly what I wanted to do. So here we are, we're playing Marith Enrage, and I'm pretty excited to see what this deck can do. So anyway, our turn one, let's lay down a command tower, and we will tap out and pass. Once I saw the idea for a Marith Enrage deck, I'm like, wow, that seems really good together, and I just got very excited about playing the deck, so that's what we're doing today. Marith, by the way, is red-green-white for a 0/0. It enters the battlefield with a number of +1/+1 counters equal to the amount of mana spent to cast it. You may pay X, remove X +1/+1 counters from Marith, and choose one. Preordain coming down for our opponent. And you may choose one ability. Put X +1/+1 counters on a creature. Marith deals X damage to any target, or create an XX green elemental creature token, and in all cases, X can't be 0. So Marith is a complete Swiss Army knife. You can pump up your existing creatures, you can deal damage to things, or you can create more creatures if you need to. Pretty interesting commander. I believe it's banned in 1v1 because it is so versatile. It's not something that really shows up all that much in multiplayer commander these days, though, which I think is kind of disappointing because it's actually a really interesting commander. It really forces you to figure out how you want to spend your mana. I like commanders that do that. It puts interesting choices into the gameplay, and that's something that I do enjoy. Anyway, that brings it to our turn 2. We draw Forerunner off the top, and we'll just play a land and pass. Would like to catch another land here, particularly a multicolor land. That way we can get Marith down. But if not, we can still cast the Ashnod's Altar. Talisman coming down for the Scarab God opponent. Taking a look at what our opponents are playing, by the way, we have a Scarab God, we have Admiral Beckett Brass, and we have Omnath Locus of Rage. A turn 1 Siren Storm Tamer for the Admiral Beckett Brass opponent. It is a pirate. And now they're going to cast a Fire Diamond. Sounds good. Get some mana ramp going. I would go for a Fire Diamond on our next turn. So what I also think is really interesting is that Marith has been out there for about 5 years, but with the Enrage mechanic, it basically gives you almost an entirely new deck to play because there's so many cards with Enrage. I think it's rare for an older commander like that to basically wholesale switch out most of what you're doing and almost switch to an entirely new game plan. So I think that's pretty cool with what happened with Marith and the Enrage mechanic. Anyway, we draw into a Hornet Nest. Whenever it's dealt damage, create that many 1/1 green insect creature tokens with flying and death touch. Alright, so I think this turn we play the Forest, then we'll play the Hornet Nest, and potentially next turn we'll maybe look to do some things with Ashnod's Altar, depending if we can get some damage into this Hornet Nest to create some tokens. Vampiric Tutor for our opponent. Clever Impersonator coming down for our opponent. Daring Buccaneer coming down for the Admiral Beckett Brass opponent. Stormfleet Sprinter for our opponent. It's a 2/2 with haste, can't be blocked. Sylvan Library Trigger for the Omnath. The Clever Impersonator for Scarab God, by the way, copies the Sylvan Library. I would go for a Sylvan Library right here. I just looked in the deck list. There is no Sylvan Library. Probably something that I would add. It's too good of a card not to. Even if you don't draw cards with it, it is one of those things that can smooth out your draws to hit all of your land drops. Right now, we're in danger of not making our next land drop, which is a little worrisome for me. There's a Chandra Flamecaller, which is not a land. Ugh. Well, I guess we play the Ashnod's Altar. This may be a quick game. Sylvan Library for the Scarab God opponent. Bribery, targeting us. Well, this should be fun. An opponent just goes straight for an Avacyn. That's not great. There is no homeward path in this deck. Admiral Beckett Brass coming into play. Opponent's going to swing into us with all 3. That seems unnecessary. I guess we block the 3/3 and start getting some tokens. We go down to 35 and we get 3/1/1 Death Touch flying tokens. Sylvan Library Trigger for the Omnath. New Frontiers for our opponent. Each player may search their library for X basic lands, put them onto the battlefield tapped. That's going to help us out so much. That is exactly what we needed. Yes, use that ability. Let's get 2 plains and 2 mountains. Every player getting 4 lands off that. Avacyn's still going to be a bit of a problem for us. We can block with 1/1s for now. That's a Soul of New Phyrexia. That's interesting. Permanents you control gain indestructible. Don't think we need that just yet. I'm actually going to go for Trapjaw Tyrant because that gives us a way to exile the Avacyn and get it back under our control, which is something that I want. And in the meantime, I am going to sack a token and cast Stuffy Doll. The question is, who do we put the Stuffy Doll on? It's got to be Omnath or the Scarab God. The pirate opponent doesn't scare me that much. I guess we go with the Scarab God. And with that, we will pass the turn. Imprison in the Moon for our opponent, targeting the Admiral Beckett Brass. That just seems like not a great use of Imprison in the Moon. Not sure that Admiral Beckett Brass really warrants that. Heuristic Study for the Scarab God opponent. That card could actually be pretty troubling. Opponent gonna swing into us with the Avacyn, so yeah, we'll just block with the token. No big deal there. Throw a 1/1 in front of it, and life is good. Does Guilty Conscience with Stuffy Doll go infinite? Yes, that is an infinite loop. Now, we're gonna have to try this for science. So, the Guilty Conscience Stuffy Doll is an involuntary loop, which are generally bad in Magic because we have no way to end the loop. What I just read online says that once the player dies, the loop should end. But we'll see. I'm not exactly sure if that's gonna work how I want it to on Magic Online. We will see. So, pirate opponent's going to swing into the Scarab God. Scarab God's going to take a hit from Sword of Feast and Famine. Admiral Beckett Brass gets to untap their lands. Scarab God discards a card. They discard a swamp. And that puts the Scarab God down to 30. Sylvan Library trigger for the Omnath opponent. Omnath, Locus of Rage coming into play. That is something that we will also want to deal with. Conley Heart Expedition for the Omnath. Yeah, in a couple turns, that'll give him some lands. And lands turn into problems with the Omnath deck. Part of me almost wishes that the Stuffy Doll was pointing at the Omnath, although I do recognize that Sylvan Library and Heuristic Study means that the Scarab God will be drawing cards like crazy. So it is probably a good thing that in all likelihood they will not survive past our next turn. So we draw into the Trapjaw Tyrant, and now the question I have is, do we just give up on the Avacyn and focus on the Omnath with the one trigger that we're going to get? I think the answer is probably. We're going to sacrifice this token because it is going to die to the Forerunner of the Empire. But first things, we'll play the Guilty Conscience on the Stuffy Doll. Make sure that resolves. Not going to pay for the Heuristic Study. Opponent took their time with that one. I was getting nervous that there might be a counterspell. Nice. So the Guilty Conscience lands on the Stuffy Doll. The next step, oh, and they just scoop it up. Nice. Scarab God knows what's coming. Avacyn goes to the Exile Zone. No longer a legal target for us. We're going to sacrifice our Insect token right here. Play the Trapjaw Tyrant, get a damage trigger from Forerunner of the Empire, use the ability. It's going to give us an Enrage trigger, so we will target the Omnath. A Stuffy Doll is going to do a damage. Yep. Houston, we have a problem. We have entered a loop that I am not aware that we can break at this juncture. We need to find a way to do a damage to this Trapjaw Tyrant. Yep, we have entered an involuntary loop. Oh, we can sacrifice. We just gotta stop the loop. Oh man, we have the Ashnod's Altar. We just... It won't let us turn off auto yields.
Mayday, mayday. Mav's in trouble. He's in a flat spin. He's heading out to sea. Altitude 8,000. 7,000. 6. We're at 6, Mav. I'm head forward, Goose. I can't reach the ejection handle. Goose, you're gonna have to put this out. I can't reach the ejection handle. Eject. I'm trying.
Don't worry, it doesn't end like this. Oh, it's going to take forever for this game to load back up because of all the game actions we just took. The game log for this file has got to be massive. Well, it's been like 5 minutes and the game won't load back up. So I think it's safe to say that the game's probably not going to load. So we're going to scoop it up. Oh man, I wish I didn't auto-yield the triggers. If I did, I could have just sacrificed with the Ashnod's Altar, and that would have stopped us from the loop going infinite. I had never seen the combo before, so I wasn't sure exactly what it was going to do. But it turns out it just breaks the game in a multiplayer game, where if you're playing 1v1, it ends up killing the only other player, so the game ends and you win. But in multiplayer, if there's other players, you just create an unrecoverable loop. So, looks like we're gonna have to concede this one. Moto cannot handle Stuffy Doll Guilty Conscience in a multiplayer setting. Well, that was disappointing.